Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and this is what we're dealing with right here. It's getting kind of scary out there, folks, and what this is these are air sirens in, I guess, Ukraine, and it's a result of this, which I thought was kind of weird. I was watching this. I was watching apparently Ukraine attacked the Kremlin, but it literally looks like some Mickey Mouse drone that came in and dropped a firework or something. It doesn't look like anything serious. Watch this. That looks like a drone that I could go buy at Walmart. And then it looks like the drone itself exploded. It does not look like some real attempt on anybody's life. But anyway, you know, half the time these days it feels like we're watching a movie. But what I do know is that from a financial standpoint, this world is changing completely, and I know that two things are going to be involved in those changes, and that's gold and XRP. And that's what I'm more interested in. But these things that are going on, I believe, have everything to do with the loss of the status of the world reserve currency for the United States and a transition into this new world order. And I hope that this new world order involves peace and is some kind of shared status where everybody wins, and it's not just some fiat system that's United States printing a bunch of fake money. I hope it's real value for all of us and all countries. I think that's what everybody wants. Zero Hedge Russian MP says the time to launch missile attack on Zelensky resident after. So you got a whole thing going on here, okay? Then there was this after the, this guy is on CNBC talking about the regional banking sector and how it's gone off a cliff.
Mega cap companies that have participated.
So you're not worried that the banking sector is going to somehow go off a cliff later and that's going to somehow impact the rest of it?
Oh, well, the banking sector has gone off a cliff.
It's already gone off a cliff.
There's no question about it, and commercial real estate is bad. And I don't want to use the word too big to fail because I don't want to pay you a royalty, I think, Andrew. But if you look at that, those deposits haven't gone money bad and those banks haven't gone money bad. They've moved to the JP Morgan and to the SIFI banks. And so where there's a movement to much more of an oligopolistic
hear what he said?
bank.
SIFI banks, systemically important. Remember ICE 9, Jim Rickards that I've shown you in past videos? This is all by design, in my opinion.
Outcome of all of this slowly over time. And obviously the squeeze in money market funds on deposits is probably going to continue. So whether that's a fast move or a slower move, it's probably going to be a move that's going to last for a little while. So the deposit holders have been made whole. There's a lot of.
Let me tell you what, folks, you are out of your ever-loving mind if you don't own some physical gold, and I own physical gold, and I have gold in my Glint account, because if you look at what Jim Rickards described and you listen to what he just said and you watch what's happening, all of the money is being transferred. It's like our government is intentionally killing these regional banks so that all of the money goes into these banks that they control. And what Jim Rickards said is their plan is, and he said that the BlackRock executive said that their plan was to tell me we can't sell. In other words, freeze the banks and the government takes control of it. I mean, come on. Now, This right here, this guy sent me this. He made me aware of this. This Mr. Cool Dell. Let me make sure I follow him. Yeah. Banking system will fall slowly at first, then at once. See, what shocks me more than anything is how long it has taken for this system to collapse. But this was written in 2013. And I'm going to read this, the portion of this article to you. Slowly at first, then all at once. How do you go bankrupt, Bill asked. 2 ways, Mike said, gradually, then suddenly. The dialogue above is from Ernest Hemingway's 1926 novel, The Sun Also Rises. It's often attributed to Mark Twain or F. Scott Fitzgerald, or misquoted as something like, at first you go bankrupt slowly, then all at once. But the theme is the same. Nations go bankrupt in the same way. Banking collapses occur in the same way. Currency crises strike in the same way. They all happen gradually, then suddenly, sometimes overnight. History is generous with examples of entire nations that have suffered this fate, from the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 to Argentina's millennial financial crisis in 2001. The warning signs are always there, even at the beginning. Over a period of years, sometimes decades, a tiny trickle of warning signs, remember that phrase, turns into a steady stream and eventually a great flood. The United States is clearly within this model, somewhere between a steady stream and a great flood. It shows. Last night, after more than 2 weeks of utterly embarrassing theater, the government landed the land of the free inked a deal to kick the can down the road for a few more months, and in doing so, they set a very dangerous precedent. As part of the bargain codified in H.R. 2775, which President Obama signed into law, the Treasury Department is authorized to suspend the debt ceiling. In other words, for all intents and purposes, there is no limit government borrowing. This limitless borrowing, and now, even to this day, it's always a constant argument about increasing the debt ceiling. You remember this tiny trickle of warning signs? You know what it reminds me of? A couple of years back, when this video was going around. Now, what I think of when I think of all this is I don't think for a minute that the United States did not prepare for this moment. Losing the dollar reserve, world reserve currency status, that's as important as having nuclear missiles to keep people from blowing you up, or more important. And I always use the example of the Manhattan Project. The United States kept it secret, the creation of the atom bomb. It was a secret. It was a project. Wouldn't you do the same for a world reserve currency? Wouldn't you have the same kind of secretive type thing for the world reserve currency to either maintain or to transition away from being the world reserve currency? Of course you would. Remember this? Now, what's been going on behind the scenes for the last 10 years while they've let digital assets flourish? What's been going on behind the scenes is Wall Street has been setting up their custody. This is one of the largest custodians in the world, State Street. This is their, he's their head of digital assets. This is from a couple of years ago.
Talking about intellectual properties, paintings, other things like CryptoKitties, right? People have heard of CryptoKitties. So we're seeing assets start to become digitized, trickle, and then we believe there'll be a flood. When that happens, I would look at a historic precedent. If you think about 30 years ago when assets moved from materialization to dematerialization, where we moved from coupon clipping to stock certificates to electronification. We believe the same thing will happen with digital assets.
I believe the United States plan that they've probably been planning for decades was this trickle flood into the collapse of their old system and to collapse it into the new digital system. And I believe that it was all planned. I believe a lot of what we're watching has been planned. Just by the way, all of a sudden today, this pops up. BlackRock's Financial Markets Advisory Unit called to tackle 114 billion U.S. banking industry turmoil. And then here's Marcus Treacher, who I think has gone off into the sunset, or at least I don't think he works for Ripple still. This is Marcus Treacher talking about CBDCs, connecting ledgers, bridging them using XRP?
So many countries in the emerging markets are very quickly thinking through and developing frameworks for CBDCs or stable coins to be used domestically. And that creates kind of a sea change in how you can think about moving value between countries. In the old model, the only way to move value was to message between a bank in one country, a bank in another country. The Romans used a method that we use today. We just automate it. It's computerized, but it's a really old method. So the opportunity here is to switch from the messaging method to a completely connected ledger synchronization between a balance, let's say the UK, and a balance in the Eurozone. So at Ripple, what we are doing is focusing on building out that DLT international network. And we do this by two things. One, we interconnect with the ledgers of banks and payment companies in national clearing networks. And in that context, as the European Union gets behind and supports the growth of CBDCs and domestic digital assets, then the ledgers that Ripple is connecting to, let's say, for example, from a Canadian repository to, let's say, a French repository, if both of those accounts or wallets are run and supported by digital assets, then the value exchange can be immediate, atomic, and have blockchain integrity, even though both ends of the payment exist in very different blockchain environments, one in my example in Canada, one in the European Union.
You can kind of see what's been being laid, folks. Jeremy Hogan had put this out, I guess today. I was just reminded of a case where Judge Torres ruled against the SEC on a key issue. The SEC appealed, and the appellate court upheld Judge Torres. SEC versus Rio Tinto. Just don't ask how long the process took. But then this guy says, serious question, if she rules in Ripple's favor and the SEC appeals, could Ripple move forward in the meantime, and could Coinbase relist, etc., while the appeal goes on based on the ruling? And he says yes, although no guarantees as to what Coinbase would do. They haven't been very consistent. Now, a couple of chart guys I was going to at least show you, or I'll just show you this one. This is Dark Defender. Crypto causes us to feel heaven and hell at the same time. Apart from Judge Torres' decision in SEC Ripple case, XRP is accumulating energy. I still think the move will be earlier to the decision. RSI shows this. Coffee cup handle support or pattern also targets $1. Then we had eGrag Crypto, who's being bold today. You choose your course of action. White symmetrical triangle, $27. Blue ascending triangle, $10. And then we've got this scoop. Blockchain Association is exiting New York as it prepares to build out its team in Washington, D.C. to fight a federal regulatory crackdown on the cryptocurrency industry. And I'm going to end with this. I told you that my son, for his baseball team, was getting a mullet. He did get his mullet, but I am trying to talk him into letting me pay extra money to get him his mullet permed. So I will be lobbying him here over the next day to see if we can get that done. I think that would be classic. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that you don't have to like baseball to go watch Kenny Powers in Eastbound and Down, one of the greatest shows of all time. If you haven't seen it, begin watching today. And you can't be easily offended if you're going to watch it, by the way.